Hi, we are Monte Carlo's Flying Circus, and we picked up Challenge 6, which is one that we've worked on previously, looking at how much risk contingency a project needs. Next slide. So we've been looking at the risk management process, and we have worked on this previously, and we wanted to develop this further, looking at the challenges of the lack of consistency in risk register formats and data captured, and how to actually visually see different risk scenarios at the same time, and making sure that issues were incorporated into risk management. Next slide.
Yeah, so what we've looked at is taking the Monte Carlo simulation method, which takes a risk register, which is created at the start of a project. And in this hack, we have focused on how this evolves through the life of the project. So when it's first created, there are only forecast risks that might materialize, but as you move through, some of those turn into issues which we mark as black. And we will show that in the actual app in the next slide.
So as mentioned, as you start your project, you have no specific issues. However, you have a number of risks. In order to do the Monte Carlo analysis, you simulate the effect of those risks. Each risk has a certain value that it might occur, a certain probability that it might occur. You calculate the sum total of all those values, weighted with the probability, and that gives you a certain number. And you do that many, many times. That gives you a range over which you might expect the total impact of risk for your project. That's the traditional Monte Carlo analysis. And this bar graph here is intended to indicate that histogram from the bottom, which is the most likely regions. So here you would have a 50% chance of getting up to about 60K, 80% chance of getting to 150K, and then 95% chance of going up to 275, like that. Now, in this example, we're going month over month. In January, some of your risks will materialize. They will become issues. And then we record them as black because they're written in stone. But the remaining issues that have not actually materialized, you can still run a Monte Carlo analysis on the remaining issues and then show the corresponding histogram with the various likelihoods of the impact. Then doing that month over month, you can see the overall risk that you have against your intended budget and how it is changing over time. So this is a way to evaluate the risk of your project dynamically rather than statically. Next slide.
So the key benefits of our approach is that a risk manager can easily calculate their baseline risk contingency and then look at the risk profile over the life of the project, at any point having actuals going backwards and forecasts going forward, which improves the accuracy of the risk profile. Next slide.
Multiple comparisons of the data resulted in the presented graph and the table. Now, imagine how much better the estimation would be if you already had the existing relation among risks. Next slide.
Okay, so just quickly summarizing the next steps that this project can do is, if you look at the short term, those are looking mainly at the improvements on this tool. So looking at the inputs, so obtaining data from different projects, or using the project that we have to make a forecast, and looking at the possible correlation. This is as well adding new feature, different functionalities of the tool as it is now. In the long term, instead, the most important improvement that can be done is looking at an intelligent population of risk registers using the historical data, or identify different possible strategies, mitigation strategies, as well as automation, so automating how the risk register inform the programs and the cost, and as well as the risk based on the project information and the correlation. So thanks very much for your attention on this presentation.
So Thank you for the questions. The first question was about whether we have insights and about how the risk owner's assessment of probability and impact might be different from real data. That is a problem that exists. People do have biases about risks that they commonly underestimate or overestimate. So the way we would look at dealing with that is to look at the risk register at the beginning of a project or even partway through, and comparing that to how things have actually materialized. We would need information about lots of projects that we can compare, do that comparison on. And we would see that as creating a sense check that gives feedback to the user when they are creating or updating their risk register. And unfortunately, we can't provide more robust insights than that without a larger data set.
This challenge has been going on for some time, and we have done several different components, all of which are interrelated. They need to all come together into an integrated whole. I think part of the exciting thing about this challenge is that it is not just about doing the technical calculation of the Monte Carlo analysis, although that is interesting. It's all about how to improve the whole process of risk management using Monte Carlo analysis. And that includes some of those things that were just mentioned, getting good data, getting normalized data, getting information from historical projects, and then bringing all those together and making them usable.